All right, so you're a home buyer here on the Central Coast and you want to buy a home that needs a little bit of TLC, needs some fix-up before you can call it home and move in. Well, I've got some great tips for you, so stay tuned. These are my top tips for buying a home in need of TLC here, specifically on the Central Coast of California. So stay tuned, let's get into it. All right, so I'm Joshua Ferris. I'm a real estate agent here on the Central Coast. I've lived here on the Central Coast my whole life. I love the area. And if you're considering owning a home here in the area, buying a home here in the area, you're making a smart decision because we've got a lot of wonderful areas to buy a home, and this is an area that a lot of people want to live in. So I believe the equity, the value is going to stay there. So with that being said, let's say you're buying a home in Atascadero or Paso Robles or Arroyo Grande, and you're going, okay, maybe this is your first home, maybe you want to buy a home and add some equity to it, whatever your reason is, and there are a few different reasons. You're looking to buy a home that needs a little bit of fix-up. Okay, so this is a little different than buying a move-in ready home, and there are some pitfalls that I have seen some buyers get into, so I want to be here to help you avoid those issues. So these are my top tips, like I mentioned, and the first thing that we need to understand, if you're coming to consult with me as your realtor, and I'm sitting down and advising you on what you need to do to prepare for making an offer and closing on a new home, then you need to be prepared, right? So that's the key to this. Make sure that you're prepared both mentally, right, and you know what you're looking for, and both financially as well. So let's get into it. This is the first tip that I recommend. Know your why. Okay, so if you are a home buyer here on the Central Coast and you're thinking, okay, should I buy a condo that's move-in ready, that's within my budget, or should I buy a single family home with a little bit of land that I can fix up, I can put some value into it, really make it my own, but it's a fixer, so it's rough around the edges. Well, there's a couple reasons. First off, it's an opportunity for you to add equity, add value into your home. So for example, in Atascadero, let's use Atascadero because I'm helping a client buy this kind of property in Atascadero right now. So let's use Atascadero. The median price for a single family home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath is around $655,000. Now, if you look at the median price of a home in San Luis Obispo County, it's around $800,000, okay? So let's say you want to buy a property that needs a little bit of fix-up, and you go, okay, well, if the median price after the repairs and everything, maybe the price is, the value is $675,000, we're looking for a home to buy $600,000, so we can spend $50,000 fixing it up, making it better, and then we can move in and we've got some equity, $25,000 worth of equity, right? If you buy for $600,000, you put $50,000 into it, and it's worth $675,000, you've got $25,000 of instant equity. That's great, right? Okay, so what you need to understand first off, your why do you want to buy a home like this? And so that's, I think, the first thing that we would discuss if you're sitting down with me. And then secondly, you need to really understand where you're coming from, right? So the folks that I'm helping right now, the husband is a contractor, and he has a lot of experience fixing up homes, doing some repairs. He's got a lot of people that he knows that can do some of the subcontracting work. So you should ask yourself, do you have some experience in the trades? Do you know somebody who has some experience in the trades that you can talk to? For example, my sister and brother-in-law, or my brother-in-law, her husband, purchased a home in Atascadero, and they're really well connected. My family comes from the trades, his family comes from the trades, and they were able to get in there and put probably $200,000 worth of value add to their property, and it probably cost them less than half of that because they were able to save so much on labor, and they were able to get the deals, right? And they also had a time frame that was flexible, okay? So that's something that's important to understand. Where are you coming from? What do you bring to the table? And then number two, really budget out what you can afford and the time that you're willing to take. So if it's something simple like new carpet, new baseboards, new interior paint, maybe new kitchen cabinets, new appliances, that's something that's on the mild side of what we call a home in need of TLC, okay? So that's not going to take too long, But if you start getting into changing the electrical, maybe you move around some walls and you really change the look, maybe it needs a new roof, maybe it needs new windows, that's a common thing, maybe it's single pane and you want to have upgraded double pane. Well, that's going to take some time. So do you have a place to live while that work is being done, or are you willing to live in an area that needs some construction, right? And sometimes people think, okay, great, I want to buy a home, kind of like on HGTV, where you get in there and you fix it up, right? But think about it. You're going to be spending money on an Airbnb or renting or wherever it is that you're living, or you're going to be living in a construction zone. So think about that. And it's important to understand what your budget is, because oftentimes you're going to have the cost is just going to go over budget. That's just typically what I see, especially if you're not a contractor yourself and you don't have that experience. So that's something that I really suggest you consider before you're going to buy a home that would be considered a fixer. Okay, so if we've talked about that, let's say, and you go, Josh, I'm ready to buy a home in need of TLC. I can roll up my sleeves. I have some experience maybe painting walls, or I can put in the baseboard, or I want to learn. And we've got a timeline budget. We're willing to spend 2 months working on this new property. We really want to make it our own, and we want to have some equity. Okay, so if we're starting the search, a couple things we need to consider. The first thing that's important to understand is that you need to have a good contractor that you know. So let's say we're taking a look at some homes and there's no home inspection. Okay, so for example, there's a home that recently got into contract with some clients on, and there was a home inspection that was presented that you could take a look at before making the offer. Okay, so if that's the situation, oftentimes I suggest communicating to the seller, hey, we've taken a look at the home inspection, we've got an idea of costs, we've walked through the property with a contractor, or at least we talked to a contractor. Maybe they're listing the property for $600,000, and you say, hey, we're going to take it as is for $580,000. We're factoring in some costs. We know what the budget's going to be, or at least an idea of the budget, and you can go ahead and submit the offer that way. So really make sure that you've got a clear idea of the budget, and you can look at the home inspection. You can have a relationship with a contractor, so they can really give you real world costs now of what it's going to cost. The second point that I'd like to make is this, and this is what triggered this video, okay? So the clients that I'm helping right now, we got them into a property in Atascadero, great price, $600,000, and the after repair value, move-in ready for the neighborhood is around $700,000 or high $600,000, so maybe $680,000 for a two-bedroom, three-bedroom, two-bath, 1,400 square foot home in Atascadero, west side of Atascadero. So that's a little bit more desirable than some areas on the east side of Atascadero. Okay, so the seller factored in some of those costs and the repairs. They're going, okay, we're selling for $600,000. We're listing at $600,000, and you fix it up. You put $100,000 into it. It's going to be worth $700,000. And that's what the value is of move-in ready homes in the neighborhood. Okay, so what happened is this. So when we got into contract, the clients reached out to me and they said, hey Josh, we want a price reduction from the original contract price of $600 all the way down to quite a bit less, okay? And they said, we are going to make this request because referencing this other property that sold in Atascadero. So this is an important point, and I really want you to pay attention. Not all comps are the same, okay? So the property that they were taking a look at was another fixer that they were referencing, and it sold for $500,000, and it was similar in size and similar in repairs needed. And they said, hey, we want to get that price for this home. And I said, okay, great. So I said, I'd love to make that happen for you, but let me do a little due diligence and find out what the details are on this other home. So I called that listing broker and I said, hey, I see that this home sold. It seems like the other homes that are in the area are selling for, $750,000. It's on, about an acre. It, seems like a nice plot of land. It's a great location of Atascadero. What's the deal? Give me the inside scoop. What I found out was that one, it was a cash offer. Two, they released all of their contingencies beforehand, so they took on some additional risk, right? So there was a septic tank for this property, and they didn't do a septic tank inspection. They didn't do a home inspection. They just walked it through because I think there were contractors or investors. Also, it was during a time where the interest rates were fluctuating. It's a trust sale, so the trustees were going, hey, we just want to get this sold. We want to sure things, so quick close, cash offer, contingencies released. They're not doing any inspections. They're not asking us for any credits. We'll take this one, right? And so the reason they took it partially was because another offer fell out due to financing issues. So they thought, okay, well, we're going to take a little bit of a take a cut on our price, and we're going to sell it to this cash buyer who's willing to do all this extra, right, that we want. So quick close, cash offer, no inspections, no dealing with banks or financing or possibly falling through, and no more drama in the family, okay? So that's something really I want to make point of. If you take a look at Zillow or Redfin, or you see recently sold properties that are fixers, and you go, wow, that's a great price. If we could buy that home for $500,000 and put $100,000 in it, we'd have a ton of equity. Well, it's important to understand, especially if you're a financed buyer, you're putting down maybe 10%, 20%, that it's going to be difficult to compete against all cash investors that are willing to release all contingencies and that already are going to do a quick close. So that's important to keep in mind when you're out there searching for a home that needs a little bit of TLC, and you're taking a look at comps, and you're using those comps, recently solds, as a justification for a price point or an idea reference point for a price point of what you think you can get for a fixer type property. All right, last thing is, sometimes it's best to look for a property that actually has been sitting on the market for a little while and reduce the competition. So believe it or not, fixer type properties there's a lot of competition for them, especially investors. A lot of people, that have budgets are looking for properties like that. So if you can find a property that maybe has been on the market for a little while, and that you can make an offer a little bit under the asking price, that's a really good recommendation that I have. So don't just take a look at the homes that just got on the market. Take a look at homes that have been sitting on the market for a few weeks. That's an important one. Here on the Central Coast, we still have a low level of inventory and high level of demand, so people want to move here, and you're not going to see the kind of price reductions that you might see in other housing markets. So that's important also to consider if you're moving out of the area and you're moving here to the Central Coast. This is a different market. It's a stronger housing market due to the inventory constraints that we have, and it's not going to be as affected negatively that you might see on the news. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So lastly, I just want to wrap this up. You can get a lot of great equity value add in a fixer type property, especially if you're willing to roll up your sleeves and do some work yourself. But I'd take into account those tips before you start that process of buying a property that is considered a fixer. If you want to sit down with me and talk about what your goals are for home ownership here on the Central Coast, I'd be happy to sit down with you and dialogue about what your goals are and how my team and I can make that happen. You should be able to see on the link below there on the description my information, so feel free to reach out. You can check my email or text me, whatever works best for you. I'm here to help. So hope you have a great day. Hope you found these tips valuable to you, and hope it helps you make the decision on whether or not you buy a fixer type property here on the Central Coast, and helped you make that decision on whether or not that's something you should do. Till next time, take care.